Hey friends, in just a few days, I am going to have my 19th wedding anniversary. Are you curious what I've learned in 19 years of marriage combined with my advanced degrees and trainings in couples therapy, mental health, and my professional experience? Well, if you're curious, today in celebration of my anniversary, I'm going to share my biggest takeaways that will help you maximize your marriage and help you create your own successes. And help you celebrate your own successes. Let's jump right into it. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's walk and talk. Welcome back, my friends, to episode number 139, The Art of Love. Expert advice from nearly 2 decades of marriage. So part of me, when I even think about that title, I'm like, oh, that's not very much. There's so many people that have been married longer. But part of me feels like I've been married a lot longer than that. And not just because marriage can be hard, but because I have sat and listened to so many people tell me about their marriages and discuss their insights, their wins, their challenges. And I feel like I've lived so many lives of marriages through their eyes. And then add that professional experience to it. Like I've been trained in emotionally focused training for couples and Gottman training for couples and other advanced trainings that really help in this way. So if you smash all that together, today's episode is going to be all about insights from those things and what I've learned and how that can help you, which is the whole point, right? So, like I said, in celebration of my 19th anniversary, I thought I'd share some of those tips with you today. And very briefly, before we jump in, don't forget to check out our new blog. We are getting that underway, and so many episodes are available for you to check out, where it really breaks down each episode that we've done on this podcast into text and resources and takeaways that you can easily digest and look back on. So if there's a particular episode that really spoke to you, go back and check that out, and then you can use those in your own healing journey to help you become your best self and to build those strong families. All right, are you ready to hear my takeaways? Here we go. I have learned to apologize and validate my husband's feelings more often in this 19 years of marriage. Apologizing doesn't always mean you're wrong. It means you value your relationship more than your ego. My friends, I am the first to admit that my ego has at times been a problem in the marriage, especially in the first part of our marriage when I was still learning how to properly apologize and to validate his feelings more often. I'm still learning that, to be honest, but I have come very far, and I'm sure he'd be the first to say that as well. At least I hope so. I'm considering having him on maybe the next episode to do the same thing, but we'll see. I've learned to stop worrying about my husband's side of the street and start owning my own side of the street. Owning your side of the street in a relationship is not about blame. It's about taking responsibility for your actions and emotions. That is so pivotal in a healthy marriage. I've learned that it's okay to have different timetables for emotional processing. In marriage, emotional processing doesn't always sync, but understanding and respecting each other's timelines fosters that empathy and that connection. For example, I think I've shared this before, but my husband is able to process things pretty quickly. And for me, I don't trust my feelings initially. And I don't even really know what it all means. I just feel this tension and this anger sometimes, but I don't really understand why. And it takes me a lot longer than it takes him. Sometimes it takes me a couple hours. Sometimes it takes me a couple days. But instead of shaming myself for that, I just recognize the most important thing here is that I come back and make repairs or talk about these things and communicate them. It's not that I have to do it on the same timetable as my husband. I've learned to advocate for myself and be more assertive. Advocating for yourself in a marriage isn't selfish. It's essential for maintaining your sense of self and preserving the integrity of the relationship. Now, in my professional career, I see a lot of struggles with enmeshment, and there's not that differentiation between the two. I see an unhealthy reliance or this codependence in relationships much more than I expected to when I first started counseling. And even before that, I'd say it even started with personal training as I get to know my clients and as they would share their experiences with me. Exploring how to be more assertive and advocate for yourself really is foundational to taking your relationship to the next level. Now, this next one is very important too, and it's a tricky one to teach. I've learned to let go of perceived pressures, and I say perceived because they're not always perceived by the other party in the same way, but to let go of perceived pressures of my culture, even my religion, and my family, and even my husband, and learn to live more intuitively and spirit-led. That is not easy to learn, and it is not easy to teach. But true freedom really does come in marriage when you release that societal or that cultural or the family expectations and embrace that authenticity and intuition. And that can feel scary, especially for me personally, when it came to things like my religion, because I deeply love and care about my religion and about my faith. But to let go of what I think is supposed to be right, to let go of sometimes a shame culture. Again, I'm not faulting the culture here, but maybe even my perception of things. And recognizing that what might work for another family or most families might not work for me or might not work for my spouse. And that's completely okay. We might have different parenting styles or whatever it is, but those pressures of how it should look versus what is best for us, it took me a long time to let go of what I thought it was supposed to look like and live more intuitively and let go of shame or guilt. And often you need a counselor to help you with that, and it's still a long journey to figure that out. I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. Another thing I learned is, and I mentioned this recently in a podcast episode, but I learned about the importance of counsels. It is game-changing. It really, really is to have couples counsels in your marriage, among other things like I've talked about before. This one should come as no surprise to you, but I've learned about the importance of boundaries. So this can be anything from, I don't know if you remember this episode, but sharing food. Like they would always tease me about food because I love the food experience so much. So they would take my food or do things and I had to set a boundary about that. Or it could be socializing. Often in marriages, people have different social needs. So setting boundaries for that, or for schedules, or when to talk and not talk, or intimacy, or any of those things. Boundaries in marriage create space for love and respect so that it can flourish while you are able to protect individual needs and identities. I've learned to give myself a lot more validation and self-compassion, and also to give that to my husband. I've learned why meeting my neglected, unmet needs is so important for me and especially and surprisingly for my marriage, because I show up as a better person with a full tank of gas instead of running on fumes. I've learned to heal my inner child so that I don't hurt my family and transfer generational pain. Healing your inner child in marriage breaks that cycle of generational pain and fosters growth and understanding within your family. Meeting your own needs in marriage is not selfish. It's an act of self-love that strengthens the foundation of a relationship. I will caution you here, some people take it to the extreme, and it does become selfish. But we're talking about these core, unmet needs of that inner child, what you've been neglecting, and the things that you've been neglecting that have affected your mental health. And as you meet those things, that is what creates a thriving relationship. I've learned the importance of giving and receiving emotional bids, and I've talked about this in a few episodes as well. I think I even mentioned that when I talked about counsels recently. I've learned the importance of proactively building a strong relationship instead of passively existing in a marriage, which is what I see so often with my clients in sessions. You can't expect to have a strong marriage when you're not actively working to build it. Remember the law of physics, it breaks down. When things break down like that, it is a natural occurrence to have things break down unless you are proactively building something. So you should not be surprised when your marriage is feeling very fragile, when you've just been existing in your marriage instead of doing something to build it outside of the norm and communicating more. I've learned healthy communication, and it is a process, let me tell you. Still learning that one. I've learned how important marriage maintenance is, and that goes right along with that last one of proactively building it. So this is dates, weekly couple counsels, this is touch and intimacy. And I've learned that marriage is really, really hard at times, not always, but it's also really, really worth it. I've also learned never to follow mainstream opinions or media on marriage advice, because honestly, the current divorce rate isn't anything to brag about. So I actually looked it up, and the current national rates of divorce, and we're talking about in America here, are as follows. So 20% of marriages end in the first 5 years, 32% end in the first 10 years, and 48% of spouses who married before the age of 18 are likely to divorce within 10 years. And 25% of spouses over 25 years of age get divorced within 10 years. The statistics are not really in our favor, but that's when we follow the cultural norms. And I try to never follow any cultural norms when I can help it. So divorce yourself from the culture if it is not serving you. Now I want to share very briefly some of my favorite things in marriage. And I've thought about these things a lot as I have counseled divorcees and people that are looking to repair and want to reconnect with their spouses again or get back together after divorce even. And I created this list thinking about those things. So a few of my favorite things are when your spouse cradles you and can soothe that pain that you might have in a way no one else can because they know you the best. I'm thinking about that deep sadness that I experienced when my brother passed away, or other things that are just so deep and heart-wrenching, and having your spouse there to just, like I said, cradle you, there's just nothing more comforting, and no one else can do it like they can. I love those inside jokes and the playfulness. I love the support on those stressful, exhausting days. I love a partner to back me up in parenting. I love really good, connected intimacy. You have to put that in there, right? I love when we're able to be really present with each other and loving, and we have that good eye contact that's maintained for several seconds. I love that safe, secure relationship and that freedom from that deep loneliness. When I'm working with clients that are experiencing that really deep loneliness, I am so grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for being held. Just those days that you just need that physical touch from a safe person. Honestly, I love someone to help with things that I hate, like car repair and tech repair and yard work and just those annoying things. And I'm so grateful that he helps with those things. I love it that I have someone there to help me reach things that are just right outside of my reach and opening those really annoying jars that I can't do on my own. I love having a travel buddy that's always there if I need it. I love that help that I get when I'm sick, and I just needed an adult there to be with me. I especially love his spiritual strength. I see often in my office what happens in relationships when that's not there. I love the complementary strengths that are in him and in any relationship. Rather than seeing that as a negative, recognizing the differences and knowing that your children wouldn't thrive as they do without both of your insights and your strengths. I love a partner with similar core values. Like, we really love movement, we love connection, we love spirituality, we love mental health and wellness, and the list goes on and on. But the core things are the same, and we bond over those things. I love that he's someone that comes home and asks about my day and shows appreciation for the things that I do in ways that kids don't often do. And these are just a few of my favorite things, like the song, when it comes to love, the art of love, and marriage, and a connected, loving relationship. So again, despite all of the challenges that marriage often holds, these things make it so worthwhile. And I'm so excited about the next 2 decades and all the things that I will learn and be able to share with clients and with you listeners to help maximize your marriage and take it to the next level in a proactive way. May you put in that extra effort to building something more amazing and more fulfilling, because, my friends, the results you achieve will be in direct proportion to the effort you apply. And that's actually a quote, but remember that. And meaningful things are worth the effort. It's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be. Success is dependent on effort. May you take that next step into maximizing your relationship, beginning today. Take care, my friends, and I will see you back here in a few days with more tips on how to strengthen your personal life, your marriage, and your family life. Until then. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you, no matter what your house or your hair looks like. I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.